We're back.
We're back.
Back
We're here.
again. Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks. I'm Brody. He's Brian. You're not Brian.
I'm Brian.
You've been gone so long, you became Brian.
That's what I get.
Brian's here. You're Christian. I forgot you came.
But I did meet Brian today. It was very pleasant to meet him today. Finally, it was good to meet him.
And she's been Amanda. She's still Amanda.
She's still Amanda.
And Brian's
Thank
here.
goodness.
It's great to be here. I am still Brian.
It's still Brian. After a month-long hiatus, we have returned.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Duel of the Ranks crew is back. And we're here today to talk about Star Wars Rebels, the entire first season. We got hot takes. We got some not so hot takes. We're going to talk about great moments, some not so great moments. And really, we're going to find out if this show is overhyped, underhyped, or just right.
I'm so excited. You know,
Yeah.
I basically wanted this entire podcast to be created to talk about Star Wars Rebels. So
3 years ago.
I'm
Yeah, I
so
think-
glad that we ended up taking a pause from season 3 of Clone Wars to visit this because wow, it gave us a lot to, I think, coming out of the Acolyte and watching 2 seasons of the Clone Wars, this was like such a very different experience.
Mm.
But before we get into all of that, obviously we haven't met up in a while. So
We're all together in the same room recording a podcast.
that's
been a while.
special. Brings a
Yeah.
tear to my eye.
But I was going to say, yeah, Amanda, your patience has paid off.
I know.
It's fun that we're finally here with Rebels, getting into it. But yeah, catching up. It's good to be back. It's good
Is-
to see you all.
Is this your first time watching Rebels?
No.
Okay.
So I did watch it as like shortly after it was coming out. It was coming out when I was in college, but I
Uh-huh.
was watching it as it was coming out, but I'd only seen it the one time.
Hmm.
So coming back the second time after all these years, it was pretty fresh. It was like watching it again.
Now, I know it's Amanda's favorite Star Wars show, but Brian, isn't it your favorite Star Wars show too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I grew up a Clone Wars kid, and I was mad when they canceled it for this, so I resented it for a while. But then some things that were in the trailer for like season 3 caught my eye. I was like, they're doing something weird. I gotta check this out. And I hated some of it. Especially the first time I watched it, I didn't really get a lot of the time travel-y stuff. But like after the second, third rewatch, it's also become my favorite Star Wars show.
Nice.
After watching the first season of Clone Wars and really not enjoying a whole lot of it, pivoting into this show, it was funny because overall our rankings, I think we have it as of all the shows we've.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, we got
Never,
that.
no one's gonna listen
the
to the end of
numbers.
this episode.
I
Yeah.
think people are listening to this.
Yes.
already?
Yeah.
All right, well, the chat says there's one person, so thanks for. I guess I won't say the number yet,
Yeah.
but it's not top 3. I'll go that far. To say
Yeah.
it's not top
That's
3.
okay.
But there are still many moments that I felt just commanded your attention. And this show for me in so many ways felt like, hey, this is family friendly Andor.
Mm.
Beginning of the rebellion, it's gonna get, it's a little dark for a kid's show, but at the same point, there's gonna be plenty of Melu Run filled moments that
Yeah.
you're like, all right, we know who the audience is for, and you can't hate it too hard for that because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this was released on Disney XD.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a throwback.
Yeah.
So
That's not actually like
2014.
outside of my like timeline of watching Disney TV shows. So
You know, we're coming up on 10 years ago. It came out. A decade.
before we get too far into reviewing the full season, I wanted to catch up, especially with you, Christian, because you've been gone for a little bit. We got some Star Wars news this week, or maybe it was last week already, that the Acolyte season 2 has officially been canceled. And not only that, but the Disney store removed all merchandise from it.
Whoa.
So, Christian, did you watch the Acolyte?
kind of a
and
hard
how
left
do you feel
turn.
about it?
I did watch it,
Let's go.
and I wanted to get all of it done by the time you guys were reviewing the finale, because I listened to the finale, and I would say most of the stuff you all were saying on the finale episode, I was agreeing with kind of the general consensus of how the show went. My personal thoughts just synthesized. It had a couple of cool concepts
Mhm.
that I love about Star Wars, and especially this era of Star Wars. But it felt like it was written by a fifth grader, and like I thought the writing was real crappy, and it just got old like OSHA after like every 10 minutes, and then like it just I don't know. It didn't really hit that hard, but I liked the couple of concepts that it was introducing and some really cool things. Like it was just it was fun to see some good action again.
Mhm.
Like I think that was the closest we got back to prequel level
Yeah,
choreography,
definitely.
which I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what held me on
Early
to some of
on,
these
Mhm.
things.
First episode, I was brought in.
Yeah, so there were some cool concepts, but I think just overall it was not written well.
I agree that about the sentiment, but I gotta say that I was a little bit sad when I heard that it was canceled because oftentimes with these shows, season one takes a bit to get its footing and
Yeah.
find its pacing. This show took too long to find that. I
Mhm.
get that. But it did raise some really great, story devices and questions that I want answered. And I want to see how they play out. So I am actually, even though I didn't think it was a great series, I
Yeah.
am kind of sad that we're not getting a second one because I bet the second season would have been better.
And I really think everything they did with what was it, 8 episodes?
Hmm.
They really should have just condensed all that into 4 episodes.
Or a movie.
Yeah. And then whatever you had for season 2, make that your remaining 4 episodes and like
Mm.
slam it all, like condense it, do that in season 1 and
Mhm.
like really show us what you've got.
Yeah.
Just like kind of
Make
what
it
we
more
thought.
suspenseful. Make it
Yeah.
more of a mystery.
Yeah, and put more substance to it, I think. I don't
Yeah.
know, instead of the teasing, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I wasn't really surprised or hurt when I heard it was canceled, but I was like,
I'm surprised they took all the merchandise down.
yeah, that
Oh,
sends
yeah.
a message.
That
I don't know.
is
They're still having
they
actors like show up to Star Wars Celebration, but that's about it. What about you, Brian? What did you think about the fact that Star Wars Acolyte was all canceled? Merch is pulled, and I see comments in there. We're so far away from the computer. I can't. So I don't know what else comments say. So you're gonna have to let us know. But what were your thoughts on the Acolyte being pulled, being canceled?
Oh man, my heart dropped. It was bad news for me on first reaction because honestly, it takes a while for some of these shows to get off their feet or to really find their identity, especially
Mhm.
Clone Wars, especially Rebels. And like, yeah, I agree they should have not played it so safe. That's definitely like the biggest flaw throughout most Disney projects. So it was disappointing on one hand, but on the other hand, like at least it's kind of a promise that they're paying attention to quality and that dumping money into stuff is not gonna necessarily get clicks.
Yeah.
I
True.
like that. That's a good evaluation.
So the next question is then the next series to come out is going to be The Skeleton Crew, which is starring Jude Law in, I think December 3rd is the date that it's planned. Did you guys watch the trailer? And if
There's a
so,
trailer?
there is
Yeah,
a trailer.
man.
Came out
No.
earlier this month.
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
I
watched season 1 of Rebels. I watched stuff I'm as excited.
What did you think prior to the trailer and then post trailer?
Well, prior to the trailer, I only just knew the byline of like what it's about. I try not to watch trailers so much to keep that mystique, but I did watch this one and I immediately got the very Goonies, Stranger Things vibe
Yeah.
from it, which I think is fun and a good, safe bet to put a Star Wars story in that box.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a charming, sweet story.
Everything you
Yeah.
just said makes me not want to watch.
Really?
Really? Even with your
Charming,
kids?
Sweet.
You love Stranger Things.
So I've got
Yeah, you're a huge Stranger Things guy.
The problem is I'm not the target audience for this. Like
What do you mean, a Star Wars dad?
Jude Law?
everything you're saying to me right now, it's not connecting. It's not connecting. No, I don't know. Look, we've all got so much time in the week to actually watch a TV show, And at this point in my life, like if it's I feel like I'm one of two people. I'm the person who loves The Bear, this really serious drama that just connects with you on a human level, or Seinfeld. I've turned
There's
my brain
nothing.
off. There's
Yeah.
nothing, and there's no in between.
Yeah.
And if you can't be either of those things and you just don't know how to commit, like Andor, yeah, it's The Bear or whatever. And even like, but I'll be like really clear, like there's a lot of Star Wars movies now I just would rather not turn on and watch. I will be all three of the originals, two of the prequels, and all three of the sequels.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wait,
Hot
wait.
take.
I would
The ones that you're not gonna watch,
that I'm gonna watch.
that you are
all
gonna
of
watch.
them then. You said I'm not really into the movies. I'll just watch all of them except number
Wait a
one.
minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Which
Such a joke.
which prequel are you not watching?
That's the only one. That's
Well,
funny.
Yeah, look,
All
I'm
right.
really not into much movies like that. So anyway,
Yeah. I pre the trailer, I was quite neutral, almost forgotten about it. You know, like, oh
Mhm.
yeah, sure, let's see what happens. Jude Law, Goonies. I saw the trailer, and then it uptick a little more. I was like, oh, this looks like you said, charming, wholesome. It could be good.
It has that like magical air about it where it's sort
Yeah.
of that like childlike innocence and exploration and like
Yeah.
so you can kind of dim your expectations to be okay, I'm supposed to be in my inner child watching this.
Yeah. And so it really just kind of nudged it a little forward, like, oh yeah, we'll see how it goes, like when it comes out. But really, it's really the format that I care about. Like, I am really done with shows. Like, I'm tired of a show. I want a good movie. Like, I
Mhm.
like a beginning and an end and a wholesome, concise, good story. And I am a very, I think, practical, like, use of time. I just want to be entertained with a wholesome story. I don't want a bunch of cliffhangers ahead of me. And so
I
I'm
hear
I'm
that.
kind of sick of this whole show format.
Well, and
I'd be
they've
much
done a
more
really good
excited
job
for
of it too, so that's
Yeah.
the other thing.
I'd be much more excited for Skeleton Crew if it was a movie.
Mm.
I hear that. I'm with it too. Yeah, one and done. But I don't know, Brian. Did you watch the trailer? Are you hyped for it?
Oh, absolutely. I was like hesitant at first, especially hearing like Jude Law's playing a Jedi character. I don't think we really need that many more Jedi kind of forced into this era or onto the screens at all. Clearly, that wasn't the solution to the Acolyte. It was more lightsabers. So I'm hoping we don't see the expected route there. I hope he's gonna subvert our expectations and be kind of shady or something other than anything other than an actual Jedi. But I'm loving the vibes. I'm loving the ET feel. It's very Spielberg adjacent, which is adjacent to Star Wars. It's all derivative of a lot of the same kind of energy of the magic of early filmmaking in that kind of golden age that Star Wars ushered in. So I'm really excited for it after the trailer, especially seeing the theories about it being a Captain EO prequel. I don't know if y'all know about Captain EO. It's this
Ooh.
whack Disney movie. It's like 17 minutes long, featuring Michael Jackson, directed by Francis Ford
Yeah.
Coppola.
Yeah.
And it is
Yeah, Disneyland.
wild. Yeah, but some of the characters in the Skeleton Crew look eerily similar to the Captain EO characters. So we'll
Okay,
see
you
if
now have me hyped.
Oh,
I'm so
Brian.
excited. You have to
I'm
watch
excited.
that movie.
You said Spielberg, E.T., Michael Jackson, Captain EO, and now all right, I'm in. All I'm thinking now is the joy I got. Like you're talking about the kid-like joy. I wasn't feeling it, but now what he just said made me think of when I was in like junior high, walking around Disneyland, and you go to what is Spaceship Mountain or Starship Mountain? Yeah,
Space Mountain.
Space Mountain. There you go. You walk around that and you see all of this like future 80s futuristic look. I'm like, that's an image that he just painted. And what got me really excited more than the trailer was Brian's synopsis invoked a feeling. in me. And
Look at that, folks. A 180
if-
live
very-
right in front of
very
you.
fast. All right, so I'm excited for the show now.
Pay me money.
I-
Pay me money,
I-
Disney.
Yeah, I want to see this show do that. I want to see it capture like a feeling that the audience. It's like a great example. The new Rings of Power show, the full soundtrack came out yesterday, and I was listening to one of the songs with my wife, and it's an old Tom Bombadil character most people just hate. And she hears the lyrics at first, and she's like heard the audiobooks with me, and she's like, oh gosh, not this again. And then by the end of the song, she almost has like a tear in her eye. And I'm like, what's up? And she's like, how does this song make me feel nostalgia for something I've never experienced?
Mm.
And I'm like, that, if this show can do that, make you feel something or remember something that you're like, it's not really like you had this experience, but you watched a movie before, or it's making you remember the last time you watched
Mhm.
Goonies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's putting you back in that place where you watched The Sandlot or any of that other stuff. If it can do that,
hmm
That makes it good.
yeah, it's not great
Yeah.
in and of itself, but if it can keep that feeling and pay homage to it, I'm on board.
Like you said, when you pull at that nostalgia, but do it responsibly and not abusing that.
Don't drive after.
Yep.
Well, I think that's actually a really good segue to get
Yeah.
into talking about Rebel season 1. And as we know, I am a big fan. This is my, I think, third time watching it.
Yeah.
And I have a quality. Nice. Welcome to the stream, KG.
Good to see you.
I am one of those people that I think we need more of in the world, where I'm willing to change my opinion on things over time. So when I sat down to rewatch Rebels, I'm like, okay, maybe it's just not going to hit the same as it did the first time or the second time. Maybe I saw it through rose tinted glasses. And I left watching season 1 thinking, nah, this is truly like the best Star Wars. And
Your numbers did not say that.
I know the numbers are.
Well, the numbers
feel
are a little
teetered.
different.
Heart and your mind
It'll
are
get there.
two
It'll
entities.
keep
Yeah.
getting there. We're only on
Merge.
season 1, so let's break it open.
Let's crack. I had seen Rebels just the one time
Mhm.
years ago,
Same.
and I came away with like quite neutral about it. Like, actually, when I first saw it, I really was, ironically enough, I was kind of turned off by the animation style.
That's what everyone says.
Even though, like, I know they were trying to, like, I appreciate that they paid that homage to Ralph McQuarrie's like original art design and all
Mhm.
that. And so I've actually come to warm up to that a lot more now. Be like, that's actually cool that they did that for this kind of show,
Yeah.
and to try to harken back to original Star Wars as much as they could. And so that effort with the animation style and then the music that they did, not that it was revolutionary, but that they really meal pieced a lot of the old stuff, but did it on a much quicker level and much more soundbite level. But I thought it worked.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I thought that's what made it more comfortable and like enjoyable
Yeah.
watching Rebels, I think. And so it was like, these creators, they're really trying to kind of get back to the heart of Star Wars again.
Yeah, and they do so with an entirely brand new cast
Yeah.
of characters. It's not banking on you knowing anyone from a previous show. And the first episode, the first 2 are like the Spark of the Rebellion movie,
Oh,
TV
yeah.
movie. And I think it sets up a really great, each character has their trope that they kind of fit into, but they still feel real enough.
Mhm.
Like, I get why they are like this, and it doesn't feel like, okay, well, we got this one. Each character feels genuine and true to themselves, and I like that it sets up so clearly from the very first episode.
Mhm.
I will say there were many moments that I mentioned earlier within Clone Wars where I just didn't care. Watching this show, every episode had something I cared about. And there were moments where I think the highest episode I gave was an 86%. And it's where Ezra's going on that journey, and you bring in, I think the voice actor for Yoda was Frank Oz. And I'm like, oh, this is really good. And this
Mhm.
whole story is like really impactful. And there's moments where Kanan, I really love this too, where he fights the Inquisitor, and he's like, you shouldn't have done that. And you think he's going to tap into some rage. And he's like, oh, why? Now that you have like no one left to die for or something, it's like, no, they've gotten rid of basically you got rid of my fear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I've
what
got
told me.
nothing
now-
left to
now I'm in
fear.
control. Instead of I'm out of control.
Yeah.
Which is what they looked like they were setting up. No, now I'm controlled. And so it's interesting to watch his character, and he's in the beginning of the season, the Inquisitor's like, "Ha, you favor Form 1 far too much. You're limited, whatever else." And so he's having to find his own way to become a Jedi Master, because Yoda's like, "Master, you are," and he's like, "Well, I don't know, man."
Yeah.
It's like humbly going across the journey of like, I guess I'm a master, but he is learning through Ezra how to be a master, just as Ezra's learning how to be a Padawan.
Absolutely.
And this relationship's so unique, and the dynamic is so cool that, yeah, you're really, really bought into this storyline. And I remember liking the first season a lot less than I actually did.
Yeah. I think also having Ezra he's 14 years old at the start of the season. He's sort of the Aladdin character on his own, doesn't have a family, trying to just like take care of himself, really selfish needs.
One jump.
Yeah,
At
very.
the very beginning, he like stole
Yeah.
the and I'm like, I know someone's
Here we
gonna call me
go.
racist for saying Aladdin, but if he had a little monkey on his shoulder,
No, yeah, he had a very Aladdin like
Or a little
vibe.
droid.
Yeah. But I love that the focus of the character is on like a young teenage boy, and he is really vulnerable, and he's going through puberty and emotions during the series, and we see him he acts like a real kid his age would, especially without any guidance. There are times in the episodes where he is shut off and he's like, I don't want to talk to anybody, I need my space, and he's just moody, and that's just real. And Hera and everyone else has to be like, okay, I guess let's try to fix it, or let's try to stay away. And those are all really important things that I think this audience of kids is really important to see, and to see like a found family, and like basically Kanan being a stepdad and like figuring it out along the way. I think there's just a lot of really great foundational relationships. Like Hera and Kanan are arguably the only healthy relationship in Star Wars.
They are a healthy relationship.
They are mom and dad.
And like after, and I know you would kind of pepper it throughout whenever we would talk about Star Wars, but it was apparent throughout this episode, much more to me this go around. Hera's the mom, like a very responsible mom in that regard, but she was, I don't know, she's a great leader, great pilot, and she kind of, with that role of the kids, like understanding and meeting the kids where they're at, but also teaching them and communicating there's a greater story at play, or like there's a greater good that you have like a part to play, and you should step outside yourself, or like learn how to step outside yourself with that.
Brian,
So
what were your overall
yeah.
thoughts on this first season?
Overall, this season gets better every time I watch it. I'm not gonna lie. I always think of it as like the weakest season, just because they're more one-off episodes. There's not as strong of a narrative arc. But the characters are amazing. Every episode builds the relationships up. You get some prime R2 and 3PO banter to like start the season. Just gets right off the bait, moving hot in the right direction. And it keeps the pedal to the metal. There's great lightsaber duels. The Grand Inquisitor is a sweet villain. Jeremy, did I get the name wrong? I think I combined two actors' names in one. But the actor that plays Grand Inquisitor is giving a great performance here. And yeah, the spinny lightsaber is goofy, but he uses it in some pretty cool ways, at least. And I think it kind of shows like a little bit of a power difference between them and Maul. Like they can only imitate a fraction of his true strength, which I think is good to limit the Inquisitors to being a little bit less than Sith. So I think it handles all these themes really well, introduces a lot of great new characters. The animation. Yeah, I don't even have to talk about that. It's been said 1,000 times, but it's absolutely worth watching and super good. I love it.
In contrast, maybe this is a early hot take, but I don't think the Inquisitors are that good of a villain in general. I think that they aren't that big and bad because they don't hold any power. They're just a hired sword. And I think it's actually quite disrespectful to like the Jedi path that they supposedly left behind. And this is me also not knowing like the deep lore of like how Inquisitors came to be or anything. But I don't think they are as, I don't know, they're just sort of like the henchmen.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of disrespectful.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's like, I think if you want to use them and like think of how the Empire uses human capital, you're cannon fodder. You're useless. And the reality is, stormtroopers, like, we stopped using clones for a reason. They were expensive. Clones we can mass produce. Yeah, they can't shoot the broadside of a barn door, but like, who cares? There's so many of them. We're gonna overwhelm you with numbers instead of, you know, like literally quantity over quality. And with these Inquisitors, it's like, all right, there's one Vader. Sooner or later, he's gonna want his day off in his bathtub and be mad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what he likes to do, and look at lava. So you have all these Inquisitors, and it's like, they could probably, with a group of them, take out 80-90% of Jedi that remain.
Which is ideally like 7. You know, like in reality, how many Jedi? But I mean,
but maybe a lot of Jedi weren't surrounded by clones when Order 66 was happening, and whatever else. And if there's some Force-sensitive person, like, they thwart the people that, like, oh, okay, they're Force-sensitive, but they're not coming with us. Great, we're taking care of those people. And if for all the ones who did turn, you know, they're not powerful enough to take on Vader, not even in a group. So you're like, it's great. It allows people to take days off. But at the end of the day, I mean, I think there's a reason. I don't think any of them are even left come the time of A New Hope.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where they wanted to leave him off. But
yeah, a program that had expired.
Yeah, I do see them as kind of. I hadn't thought of it as like disrespectful. I had thought of it though as like, yeah, kind of like JV, or like, here let's unleash, you know, the junior high kids, and you can let their rage, whatever, wreak havoc. But I also kind of appropriate the Inquisitor to the TV show format. It's easier to like use that kind of a villain, because you really don't want to waste Vader on like 20 episodes or Palpatine or whatnot. And so it's like, if we're gonna do this show format, I think Inquisitor makes sense. But I'm glad we're bringing him up, because you have this opportunity to, and I think, Amanda, you have more to say on this, but like, we could have had more from the Inquisitor, like personally, character stuff. We didn't.
Yeah.
But like, we should have, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit more of a backstory, or maybe a little bit more of a feature focus on the Inquisitor would help me understand them, other than just being like, okay, you look really evil, so I guess you're evil.
Yeah. Does look really evil.
Yeah. Also, is that just how they look, or do the Inquisitors have to like put on war paint every day?
War paint.
Yeah,
like
I don't know. Yeah, they all. Like,
I don't know. Brian, do you
kind
know?
of this homogenous pale something going on. I don't know.
If the Inquisitors wear war paint?
Yeah, like what? Like, are they? Do they? So when someone switches to the dark side and they get their Sith eyes, right? So like, if someone becomes an Inquisitor, do they like lose all the color of their skin and they become gray and have like markings on their face?
Well, that is how the Utapau species looks in Revenge of the Sith. It's pretty in line with, you know, they've got red markings and gray, pale skin. So I don't think that's a dark side thing necessarily. What was that?
But not an Obi-Wan. They look
No.
in that show.
That's their own issue. That's a different issue. But no, Sith eyes work when it looks cool in the story. That's really the only explanation. Like, there's not a whole lot of consistency between the presence of Sith eyes. So for some characters, it is just a species thing. The Utapau actually typically have like a really dark black eye. So I think whenever you see the Inquisitor's yellow, it is probably because he's super evil.
Okay.
Well, sorry, what are you gonna say?
Oh, I was just gonna give a rundown of the show really quick. I just feel like the story in of itself, it was good.
Yeah.
It was not great, but it was good. It held my attention. The characters, I was bought in. I didn't love any of them, but I liked all of them. And
that's good.
I want more information about them. I want to learn more. But I remember thinking, oh, Ezra's probably going to be annoying. And yeah, I'm watching it. And what's cool too is I was watching it with my kiddo, and there's tons of moments he's busting out laughing.
Yeah. It is funny.
You know, and like he like lost interest in Clone Wars. And he's like bought into this and really likes the Ezra character. And I'm like, okay, like that's cool. He sees himself in Ezra and what he would do in that situation. And it's cool too, was watching it through his eyes. He's just like, oh my gosh, if I were Ezra, there's all these guys like, this is terrifying. Here's this new world, and I just being pulled into it. But it's cool, and that Ezra is really he wants to learn from Kanan, but at the same point, he's looking for a guide. He's not looking for someone to hold his hand and get him there. And that's what I think is really cool about his character. And so he's not trying to be led by anything. Or at least, again, not be handheld. Where I will say I thought things were distracting and didn't like, one, that animation was just trash. I did not like it at all. Number two, the clone troopers actually served, in my opinion, like no point at all. There was the number of times that the clones would shoot at the protagonists and miss. There was a moment where they, for the Melu run, where Zeb is standing on a tie or a crate or whatever, and he's right above them, and he's huge. And at like 5 feet away, they were just flat out missing.
Hey,
and,
man.
Like, it was just like, okay, like you didn't. This is garbage. And in ties, like there's like, how many ties are there? Too many. And ties don't have shields, but apparently they couldn't hit our protagonists. And so that was another thing with the technical aspects that threw me off. And then music. Correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like there was a few instances where they played Leia's theme for Ezra. There was one Across the Stars theme that was episode 15. And I'm like, y'all are just kind of throwing these themes in.
I loved it.
I thought it worked.
I loved it.
It like kind of gets you in the mood, or it like kind of
it hits your emotional feel. I remember in the end of the second episode, which is actually the end of the movie episode, like the Wookiee child is reunited with the mother, and they play Leia's theme there when they embrace it. I was just like, and then like precious. They also played Obi-Wan's like monologue over the top of the end of that episode, and I was like, man, this is Star Wars.
And they did, I think, they pulled the nostalgia strings the right way. The music, the one part of the music that I thought was a bit more creative was with the Inquisitor's theme. I thought the Inquisitor, they rolled out kind of a different flavor of this operatic, deep chanting that I love. And it was cool. I don't know, it was different, and I was like, I don't remember hearing that. And so I liked whenever they would play that when he was coming out of here. But with the characters, like you all were saying, they were believable from the get-go, and I think the show did a really good job balancing, for the most part, all of them to like progress, at least with that focus on Ezra and Kanan. I do think Sabine, though, didn't really get much of anything in the show. And like after that first season, you're like, they really didn't do anything with Sabine. So then it kind of leaves you for like, oh, we'll probably get that, soon on. And so it was that. But I will say, you loved all the characters. I hate Chopper. Maybe this is a hot take. I just cannot stand that droid. And I think, I don't know, the writers maybe intended him to be that way. Like they're successful at that. But, that droid, I think they should use him like Zeb and Kanan did when they like bet him as the trophy for Lando. And I was like, that's a great use of that droid. You all need to think of better ways to do that and use him to your advantage, because he's just a pilot. They dressed him up. Yeah.
That was my least favorite episode, by the way.
Yeah, it's not it.
Really? I actually really found it endearing. I love Billy D. Williams, like having his voice come back there. That was pretty cool
to have his voice.
And then all of the like Hera playing in to the plan, and I don't know, I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
Hera. But also I wanted to point out that according to Dave Filoni, Chopper is the complete opposite of R2-D2, where R2 is loyal like a dog. Chopper can be selfish and a pain in the butt like a cat, which I think we all know why I like Chopper now.
The only thing that gets me with Chopper is there was a video I saw on YouTube once, like a short, and it's like Chopper's kill count.
Oh yeah.
It was in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, this like little menace.
He is a menace.
A highlight moment for this whole series for me was when they take that Imperial droid that they dress up Chopper to look like. And then they're like, oh, do you want to hang out with us? And Chopper literally pushes him out of the flying like Ghost. I thought that was
It's-
so funny.
It's pretty on point.
Yeah,
Yeah. It worked.
He is actually a murderer.
he's
Yeah.
he's
For
insane.
all of you who consider droids, I'm not one of those people, to be these sentient beings, you don't get to have your cake
Chopper
and eat it.
knows what he's doing. He is committing war crimes
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
his own volition.
It's
You know, and they're all like, "Oh, okay, whatever," and they say he's part of the crew, yet there isn't that level of accountability. Like, imagine if Ezra pushed some other person out of the Ghost.
yeah.
There'd be questions.
Yeah, but he pushed another droid.
Yeah, this
That's what I'm
is
saying.
and the droid did survive.
It's machine to machine. It's not a
Machine to
person.
But
It's
he
just
also-
wires and
but
buttons.
he also opened my favorite Chopper kill this season was when he like opens that airlock and like 5 or 6 like
yeah.
stormtroopers go out. But also want to point out on that note that where Clone Wars is what is it? Stun gun, Rebels is
Yeah.
shoot to kill.
Well, you know, I mean, maybe 1% of the time. Shoot to maybe hopefully hit
No,
something.
but I mean the Rebels kill the stormtroopers plenty.
Yeah.
But
They are
and
shooting.
in Clone Wars they're always like stun,
Stun, and then yes.
and same with Bad Batch.
Oh,
So I'm glad to see some like death and knowing that the stormtroopers are actual humans on the inside and not like droids or something. So it's like
Yeah.
real death.
Yeah. It is.
You know
Well,
me.
Is Ezra's hilt gun? Is that a stun? Like, there were a couple episodes where I was like, is he just stunning them, or what is he doing?
He had his little like wrist
Slingshot.
I think that was like a tickler. It tickles people.
Yeah.
Like you shoot them with
kind
that.
of the same thing. It's like
I love the pistol.
I do love
saber.
like when I ranked that episode higher because of seeing like that immersive universe type thing, but this utilitarian view of the lightsaber and shooting and whatnot, and then I don't know, adjusting the length of that. That
Mhm.
was so cool to see in a Star Wars show.
I also thought it was cool that the episode that he makes his lightsaber in, he sees Kanan looks at the hilt and is like, "That's interesting," and we only see him hold it as like a lightsaber.
Right.
But then in the next episode is when we're like, "Oh, he can also shoot from
Yeah.
it." So it was cool to see them like wait to reveal that until it was necessary.
And what's funny is like, yeah, we have that episode, the next one, and then in the finale, when Kanan does his badass dual lightsabers and he has Ezra's and he starts shooting and
yeah.
wielding, and then Ezra's like, I never thought of that. And it's like, you really didn't think of that? Like, I thought that's why you did that, buddy. like really?
Like, wow, what a
I was
concept.
like,
Yeah.
so that just made me laugh when I saw that.
Brian, do you have a highlight from this first season?
Gotta give it to my boys, R2 and 3PO. Not gonna lie.
Boo, that was my least favorite.
Really?
Oh man, R2 is my favorite character. He will always be my favorite character. I've got a soft spot for
Right on.
droids, and the Chopper content is gold. I don't understand not liking Chopper. He's incredible. He's easily one of the best droids. So much personality.
Yeah.
And I love that he's just the anti R2. You know, it's good to see them kind of juxtaposed per se.
That's
so
interesting
kinda
that
my
you
highlight.
That's interesting that you like him because of this, I don't know, yin and yang of R2D2. I would have thought, yeah, if you love R2, you hate Chopper or whatnot. But
No, balance in all things. R2's sassy in his own way, but he's a chill dude. And Chopper didn't kill that other droid. He survived the fall, by
Yeah.
the way. So I mean, he only kills organics, which is totally in his right to do so.
Yeah.
that kind of makes me think in the speculation turf, what would be like the opposite of C3PO, like some smooth talking charmer, real cool to hang out with droid, like a cool,
The coolest guy at the party.
kind of like a K2SO
Yeah.
type thing.
What would be the worst character of The Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah.
This is the antithesis. We're talking about the best character.
Okay, calm down.
Just saying. It's just a fact. I don't know. For me, I would say like the highlight, obviously I had mentioned, I think my favorite episode is the one where Ezra goes on that journey in that it really feels like that video game. What is it? Not Jedi Survivor.
Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, yeah.
It
Yeah.
really feels like that.
I got those vibes to
Mhm.
that episode.
And you're setting something up later where he looks up to the ceiling and it looks like the map of the world between worlds. And you're like, wow, okay, they were like outlining this now
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
the very beginning. And there was this big vision for this show. and it's so cool. And they really touch on also I don't want to say there's this spiritual element that Rebels uniquely has with the Force and animal creatures.
Yes.
And there was one episode where you have these like bat, like
Stingrays.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're called. I wrote that down.
That was
Tibidi.
oh nice.
Yeah,
Tibidis.
and you have them, and they're like,
Which episode was that?
I think that was like 4.
It was earlier on.
I think that was one of my higher ranking episodes.
Yeah, and you have Sabine and
You have the
Hera.
loft cats. Oh.
Yeah, and they're obviously they're fighting them and just trying to get off. The next time around, no, they're intentionally looking for them, and they're at peace with it. And I mean, the highlight moment for me, and I know like Kanan was like freaking out, but Ezra just doesn't know what to do with all of his emotion, and he summons up this demon from hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's this giant one, and like you just have the look on the face and of the Grand Inquisitor, like, oh, who is this kid? What did he just call up? And I do think that that giant one, as big and like menacing as he looked, he kind of gave up when he got scratched on the wrist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I did.
That's funny you bring that up because in my most out of pocket moment for the season 1 was when the Tibidi was trying to like hump the ghost. That's what happened.
You're using that word correctly.
That's what happened. She said that they were trying to mate with the ghost.
Okay.
That was
I missed
said.
it.
No, I wasn't talking about those things. I was talking about the bad things on that on the asteroid field where it was the I'm talking about where it's like that old
Those are like fat cat Wolverine type things.
Yeah.
Oh, that thing. I was talking about the moths.
Yeah, I was talking about the moth
No, I'm
things
talking
too.
about when they're on that asteroid planet and Sabine
Yep.
and Hera,
Oh
like,
yeah,
one
the
of those.
shadow things. Yeah.
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 And then, like, what's his face? Ezra pulls
Mhm.
one up from the deep.
Yeah.
Those. That was a cool moment for me where I'm like, oh, that was his unlimited power moment where he's connecting now. They're all sitting and they're silent with him.
Hmm.
And it's like just this Daniel in the Lion's Den moment where you're like, okay. And it's really fitting that Kanan is the one teaching him to connect with animals because, as we know, later on in the season, that's a very important point for his character.
I also
Mhm.
love at the end of season 1 in that final fight between Ezra, Kanan, and the Inquisitor. He gets a scar on his cheek that looks like 2 little cat whiskers.
Ooh.
It's little loth cat whiskers. And I love those loth cats.
Yeah. I do think that planet Lothal, it's another thing. Like I love the planet. I love
It was a good home base. I like that they
Yeah.
used that as a home base for the show.
And again, we're
too.
getting not only all new characters, all new types of droids, all new ships, all new planets when we start this show. And I think that
Yes.
also adds to the immersive universe of being like, we are still in Star Wars. It's all still very familiar, but it's all new and it's not a desert planet.
Yeah, like even the concept of the ghost, like this homage to the Falcon, like this
Mhm.
Corellian hull freighter type ship. But I like this added nuance of the Phantom where it gets to eject from that.
very Star
And
Trek.
yeah, and it makes it brings in a good dynamic to the show.
Mhm.
And like you can do more things with the show in that
Yeah.
regard. And so yeah, I really like that.
Plenty of good episodes. Any final thoughts?
I wonder who your favorite character is and who your least favorite character is after watching this season.
Ooh, that is a good question. We're gonna have to come back to me.
I can go.
Yeah, you go.
Okay, I think my favorite character in this first season is Hera.
Mm,
She's the glue that holds everyone together.
mhm.
She gets everyone out of the sticky situations as best as possible. We saw her make the tough choice of leaving Kanan behind when he gave her that directive,
Yep.
and she knew to trust him. And yeah, Hera's a baddie. And I know we overuse the term mother in culture nowadays, but really,
Mhm.
if we're gonna call someone mother, it's Hera.
Yeah.
And then my least favorite character is, like I've mentioned before, Inquisitor.
Wow. Okay.
Which
That's-
surprises me,
That's wild.
kind of.
I think the better villain is Callus
Yeah.
because he like plainly
We
admits
didn't
to
even talk about
genocide.
Callus.
I know we
yet.
haven't even talked about him.
Oh.
He's like, haha, yeah, I killed all your people, Zeb. And we're like, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
Excited
Like,
look about it.
Yeah, he looked manically crazy. And I was
Yeah.
like, this guy is
He came
actually
off strong.
yeah.
Then he kind of tampered off, and then he kind of looked sane next to Tarkin. We didn't talk
Yeah.
about Tarkin. Tarkin came in, and yeah, it was, but he was a more, I think, that believable, nuanced
Mhm.
villain type character. But segue into my favorite characters. I don't know. I'm still kind of back and forth. Honestly, I do not mean to copy and take all your points, but I really do like Hera most of all. Like, she's definitely MVP.
Mhm.
She's MVP of that of that crew. I do like, though, this protagonist of Ezra, and it works, and it's, I don't know, cool to see that journey. And with him opposing a master, we don't have just a strict altogether master that's teaching this Padawan. He's helping Kanan as the
Mhm.
master learn. And so that makes it a really interesting dynamic where it's almost, I see him almost as like his older brother that
Mhm.
he's really like, but yeah, stepdad, dad,
Yeah.
it all works too. But
Mm.
that's, so I kind of vary between Hera and Ezra, but I like Hera. She's MVP.
Yeah.
Brian, what about your character
You also
picks?
didn't say
Oh,
least
well, Chopper. I hate Chopper, but he's not a character.
Yes,
It's
he
a,
is,
it's a
Not a
machine.
character, not even
It's
a
a
Wow.
character.
machine. No,
Oh
it's
my
a character.
gosh, that is
I'm
so
joking.
offensive. My friend Blop would have some words to say to you.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, I love Kanan. I think he is my favorite Jedi. It's kind of going back and forth between him and Soul right now. But I love the
Nice.
archetype of the struggling master. It's very, kung fu movie. It's very Kurosawa. It's very Karate Kid.
Yeah.
So Kanan fits that role so well, where even Obi-Wan, like in the original trilogy, is kind of a little too flawless, in my opinion, and except for the part where he lied. But I blame the writers for that, not Obi-Wan. Yeah, but then the worst character easily, like I can't hate him more as Morrigan. The big red dude from the Lando episode ruined what could have been the best episode of the season. I love Lando. He's one of my favorite characters in all of Star Wars, and as Morrigan, like, tanks that episode hard. But I mean, I know it's on purpose. They made him to be hateable. So like, good job, I guess. But still, it ruins what could have been an amazing episode.
I'm glad you brought him up because his voice sounded familiar. My kids and I, we've been watching the Kung Fu Panda movies, and Poe's dad, the duck, is that actor?
Yeah,
does he voice
he's
the same
also in
guy?
Mulan.
Yeah.
One of the like emperor's secretaries.
Yeah. So it was just funny hearing his voice
Yeah.
in that, and I think that's what drew me to As Morgan. But yeah, otherwise, As Morgan, very repulsive.
Yeah.
Very repulsive. Fatso.
Maybe the most punchable character in all of Star Wars.
Yeah.
He's up there.
Yeah, he's up there. Yeah. No,
So what, if you haven't mentioned it yet, what was your top episode?
yo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Very rude.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
My bad.
come along,
Now I'm
afterthought.
offended. Do we do that anymore? Is the internet? Are we still, like,
Canceling
being-
people?
Yeah, canceling people.
Okay, hurry up and get it out.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was 8 years
Here
old.
we go.
You can't say Boba Fett.
Boba Fett? No, my favorite character. Actually, I'm gonna go with my least favorite character first. I'm going to my favorite because I want to end on a high note with this. My least favorite character, let's just say mid-level management, Imperial staff. All of them were absolutely annoying. From the people who, like, there was the skinny gray guy and the bigger guy that both got decapitated by the Inquisitor.
Which
So
that was jarring. I was like, whoa, we got dark
Scary.
with this show.
Yeah, I know. I
And
was like, I love it.
Like the moment, like, okay, it was kind of like the show was building on itself. Like, you get to know characters, kind of kids' version of Walking Dead-esque. You get to know them a little bit and their motives, and then boom, gone. And so I love that we were building on them. These weren't like Imperial officers we met in Empire Strikes Back where you didn't know them. It was just cannon fodder. No, we got to know these people a little bit, and then decapitation. Whoa, that's crazy. Here we are on a kids show. And there was also the woman who I'm confident she was in the Rugrats, played the actress, or I believe it was an actress who played Phil and Lil.
Oh,
Pretty confident. it was
that voice actress does a lot of things.
including this, and I don't know.
The one with the alien helmet?
Yeah, the alien helmet. Look, I get it. That's the point. They're wildly incompetent. and they're in over their heads, and there's just so many people, and I don't know, it's just mind-blowing to me because the Emperor, for all of his plans and all of his schemes, you can tell he's probably one of the worst actual like leaders in just galactic history, because everybody to him is a number, and it shows, because there's no people that are there. They're all there to, like, you know, they're not there to work together. They're not there to collaborate. And so everyone's just trying to move up the ranks and cut everybody out. So there's no community within the Empire. And if the Emperor was good, and if he was really able to manipulate his staff, or they're all to work together, and they're, well, we don't work for very much, but the benefits are amazing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you could, if they could have
good
adopted
benefits.
that, something there where they're like, no, we're really here for the cause. And if he were able to do that, I think a lot of those incompetencies would have washed out. But they have them, and overall, you just get tired of seeing the Empire just be stupid, trip over themselves. They can't shoot anything. And then you have the Inquisitor, where it's like, okay, it's an actual villain, but it takes some higher form of, probably not a mid-level manager, like VP level person, to actually do an entry-level job.
Yeah.
This is a joke. And so all of any form of the Empire in this show is just annoying to me and not well used. If you want to be an actual force, have them, maybe be less of them, have the protagonists have better schemes so you don't encounter the Empire as much. So there's still a looming threat. Like, a stormtrooper in that Jedi Survivor game can kill you. Let's make that in these shows as well, and then just not whatever. So that was the thing I disliked the most, all of them. But the thing I love the most, and we don't get as much in this first season, but I don't care, just really piques my interest, is Sabine. She is by far my favorite character in this first season. We get little moments where
in this first season.
In the first season,
yeah.
As a kid who loved Boba Fett growing up, and a kid who loved drawing and art and everything else, you're like, oh, okay, we saw these Mandalorians as knights. They don't talk much. They go around and kill things. And I was watching my kiddo. She pulled out 2 blasters at one point, and he's like, whoa. She's like, Jango. I was like, yeah, but I'm like, yeah, but like personality.
Yeah.
And flair. And she's like, I'm going to draw this thing on the ground. They're like, oh, that's pretty. She's like, yeah, it is. Boom.
Yeah.
You're just like, whoa. So she's the person that you're like, if you're not watching out, she's got all these gadgets.
And she's a sharpshooter.
She's got some cool stuff.
But there's also some story there where she can speak multiple languages. She tricked the Imperial officer lady at one point by saying docking bay 17, 7. And you realize, oh, she was a part of this Imperial force at some point. And the more that we know about the Siege of Mandalore, the more that even if you've watched The Mandalorian before watching this, since your first go, you're like, wow. So the Mandalorians, like, they were conquered on their planet. The Pelions, like, destroyed whatever else. And then these kids have no hope. They're like, okay, so you might as well join us now because you're going to starve. And so out of necessity, she probably joins them to just survive. And then just like, I'd rather die than live like this. And she joins this force, not even knowing she's joining a rebellion. It makes me be like, this is something I want to watch. It's, I want to check in. And we know there's a whole lot more that does happen with her character. Even from the beginning, I'm just like, this is someone so totally different than anything we've seen from a Mandalorian before this. So, yeah.
Nice. Good answer. I do like how Ezra tries to like riz on Sabine because like you kind of expect him to, right? Yeah. They're at that age. But I also like that it doesn't become like anything. It's just sort of like, again, that normal hormone age of kids that are also watching this.
Yeah. And also is nothing when they see each other again in Ahsoka, like, oh, hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh, you can hug me whenever you
you
get around to it.
Yeah. Like desperately, it's like you're living at my house.
Yeah.
Obsessing over me, and now you're like, oh, hi. Like, okay, that's written well. So yeah, I guess that's their romance. But anyway, all right, now I've gone.
Okay, I think the last like question that I have for the group before we maybe go into the final like scores of things is, what was your favorite episode or episodes, and like the most skippable one or couple if you found like a series of them?
I was pulling up my phone with certain notes that I took. The highest ranked episode that I had was episode 5, Rise of the Old Masters. And I took notes like it was very wholesome. and well-rounded because I think they covered a lot. But I thought they made a lot of ground with Ezra and Kanan and like their dynamic.
That's
but
the one where they think that Luminara is still alive, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And the stingray flying things.
Oh, yeah.
They're in there. The Phantom is ejected for the first time, and like it seemed like the show amped it up a bit more.
Mhm.
Like, hey, look at all the things we've got in store for you for this series. And it was, I thought it was hitting all the notes of like good typical Star Wars. What was the other high ranking one? I mean, I really did love all of the Jedi related stuff and like the temple. And it was just really cool. But did you ask for the lowest ranking one of them? Let's see. I had the Brian, you're not gonna like this. It was Idiot's Array, the Lando one. Not because of Lando, but I think it was just lowest rank because I didn't see as much substance with that episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, I liked seeing Lando and all that and hearing him, but it was just hard to, I don't know, put the rest of that with the other episodes in the show.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
My favorite episodes were the like arc at the very end, which was episodes 12 through 14. Kanan kind of sacrifices himself to get abducted by the Empire, and Ezra, Zeb, and Sabine try to go off and find him and all of that. That feels just like very Star Wars. Also having like Kanan like strapped to like a chair and like being questioned and tortured is very Star Wars. And I love that. And just watching him like protect everybody from the Empire, and how Ezra is watching Kanan like model truly like what it means to be an incredible Jedi.
Yeah.
And Kanan doesn't even, I wouldn't say he doesn't care about being a good Jedi master. He just wants to be a good person. Like it doesn't seem like he's like, oh, it has to be this Jedi way. So I love that. My most skippable episode, I would say, is the Sabine and Hera one, where they get stranded on the I would take the Mei-Lu run episode over that one because I really like how it developed Zeb and Ezra's relationship by the end of that episode.
It's a wholesome little story for the kids who are watching that says, hey, and like, look, I will say, for me, one of my best friends I have to this day, when I was in kindergarten, we did not get along at all. From first grade or from kindergarten to fourth grade, we were not in any way friends. He picked on me, I made fun of him, whatever else. We didn't like each other. And then one day I talked too much in class, and the teacher said, you know what? I'm putting you next to Mike. Sat me next to Mike.
Shout out to Mike.
And so next thing I know, we're sitting next to each other in class, and we're going through our geography books, and we're just like making jokes that were like super dark. Obviously just
like boys do.
Yeah, exactly. We're like telling a minor who's like, because it's all like stock photos of people for your like history and geography books. And he's like gets a thumbs up, like he's getting down into a mine, and we're like, he's not happy about that. He's probably gonna die. He'll probably die right after this. Just like cracking up, and that one moment turned into a lifetime of friendship to this day. And so it's like, look, I get it. I get that storyline. It's just not that interesting. So for me, that is my lowest.
Yeah.
But the highest, I mean, Ezra, Kanan, both of them discovering each other and like what they're trying to do on this mission of master and apprentice was so cool. And seeing Kanan die and like that whole thing, like as he's going through that, and you're like, wow, like it was done so well and so much better in my opinion than like how the Last Jedi did it, where Rey's just like alone in that moment of self-discovery, like you are nothing, JK, you are everything.
Yeah.
But like, I thought it was so good, and bringing back Yoda,
but just in his voice.
Yeah.
We didn't have to see him.
Good.
Yeah.
It didn't feel cheap in any way.
Yeah.
And you had the little light.
Yes. I loved that too.
Yeah. That was so good. What about you, Brian? Favorite, least favorite?
Yeah, highs and lows.
Yeah, honestly, I love the Rise of the Old Masters. Like that episode is like almost peak, but Path of the Jedi, I think, like takes it to like another level of spiritualism. And whereas most of the rest of the season struggles, the whole show struggles with the technical aspects, I think this episode uses the art style so well that it looks beautiful. Yeah, the lightsaber, I guess, choreography is like a little bit clunky looking compared to some of the more fluid stuff we've seen in animation. But like I think the lightsabers are cool. I think the thin lightsabers are fine, and that maybe that's my hot take for the day is that the thin lightsabers are cool and that they look a lot more like the original trilogy lightsabers. And like a lot of times this show feels like it was filmed, like it feels like it was, it's Muppets kind of like the textures in the close-ups are kind of clear that that's what the models are similar. I don't know, they're inspired by Muppets to some extent. I believe that fully.
Yeah, fuzzy faces. I know.
There was like kind of cinematography too. Like there was an instance where the camera was like upside down or like turned over and faced the crew.
When they
like
walk onto the
Yeah.
ship, it's sideways or whatever, and I like that. That's just such a simple, interesting choice.
I
Okay,
hated that.
why?
Because no, it's stupid. Here's
because it's real life and it's
No, it
sideways,
wasn't
man.
real life, 'cause here's the thing. So they're sideways, right?
Yeah.
And then when they have to get into the ship, in theory, you're coming this way. You'd have to like get your hands like this and then resituate yourself. Instead, they walk off like they're back on a level platform. And I'm like, no, there wasn't. You introduced something cute. You were trying to be cute, and then you didn't keep up with the continuity. As if there was this like no, there was
fun
this
vacuum.
there was this middle room where they situated themselves and actually did that whole thing. It's like, no, all you had to do was he cuts a hole in, and then you like
fall in. He like
Yeah.
falls in. Yeah.
That's what you need to do. Keep it up. If you're gonna be cute, keep it up. Otherwise, it's stupid.
Yeah, I want to get back to Brian, but before I think the greater sin was they stole a huge transport ship and then they approach these Star Destroyers and they just don't catch that it's the one that was just stolen,
Yeah.
like this missing huge transport, and they just dock it. They dock it, and it's like, all right.
Oh, it's not missing anymore. It's right there.
But I mean, there are a lot of silly things in Star Wars, but I think that stuck out to me as like probably one of the silliest, implausible things in the show. But Brian, you were on your highs. Did you get to your lows?
Not yet. So I already talked about the Lando episode kind of being sabotaged by Baz Morgan. But I don't know. I think I still love enough about that episode that I would think my least favorite is actually the premiere. I don't know. For some reason, it's just kind of forgettable to me. It doesn't really grip me, like character-wise, relationship-wise, nearly as much as the other episodes. Not that it's like done poorly, just that there's so much to love in the rest of the series, and I truly don't hate any of the episodes enough to put them under something as forgettable as the premiere is. And I don't know, arguably the weaker Vader content that we've seen. I don't know. There's much greater stuff to come in season 2, thankfully, with him.
That makes sense.
Made me think of a 2000s TV show that was created all to sell merchandise, and the TV show is called Zoids. And back then, I mean, those commercials were awesome. You didn't?
I don't remember this.
Oh, they were like their own like Japanese like Legos, but there was like these transformer looking things.
Oh yeah.
You could get inside, and there was like Liger ones, there was Mammoth ones, there was
nice
dinosaur ones, and people could get inside. It was anime and on Cartoon Network, and so it was like this like Gundam TV show. Anyway, you got this kid who's like, he's very much so like Ezra, and then he like it stumbles onto this like basically battle royale between these like two Zoids, and people use like there's this whole community of it. People are betting this and that, so he gets exposed to this whole world. He's like, whoa, who are these people? And then he builds this connection with this Liger Zoid that like no one could retain, but this guy
bred for its skills and magic.
And so you're like, this. So for me, it's like he stumbles on this community. He's got this skill set. He was out for himself, but now he's found a little home, and he's joined. He's like, this is my calling. This is my purpose. Oh, I have this secret thing that you all can benefit from, that I've got this connection with this thing here. Okay, well,
Pikachu.
let's learn more. And so yeah, for me, if you haven't watched Zoids, go check it out.
Check out Zoids.
After you check out Rebels season 1.
Yeah, check out Rebel season 1.
Go watch Zoids. Build them, customize, mobilize. They come to life before your eyes.
Whoa,
Whoa.
TM. Oh, but
Yeah, trademark. Don't.
but Brian, I like that you mentioned Vader, and I do like Vader was just barely in this. They
Yeah.
open up with him and then they end with him.
Mm.
And I like that about the show.
Yeah.
I didn't really remember that from the first time
Yeah.
watching it around, but it was
And I
that
like
was
how
cool.
they brought Fulcrum along through it. Like that's a
yeah,
ongoing
Fulcrum.
thread. And even Sabine's like, who's Fulcrum? Like, why are you trusting them? And why can't we know? And all of this stuff. And to have that revealed at the end to be Ahsoka was really cool.
Yeah, that was a great way to kind of tease the future of the series as being a Clone Wars continuation, because most of this season is pretty disconnected from the Clone Wars. You don't really see a lot of returning characters. It's much more of an original trilogy grounded show.
Yeah.
So I like Ahsoka being the bridge between them. This builds on her character. This series does it in such a good way. I'm so excited to see more of her too.
That was cool.
Yeah.
And like they didn't just come out with teasing Fulcrum right at the beginning. It was like mid-season is when you first heard about Fulcrum, right?
Oh, totally.
That was cool.
And we got Ahsoka and Vader. It touches back from Clone Wars, and here we are now in the original trilogy and bringing her in. Super excited. With that, Brian, what is the final number for season 1 of Rebels? What did we rank it?
Season 1 of Rebels is ranked at 68.17%, which looks to me like someone forgot to put in their scores, if I'm being completely honest. I might need to get in here and do my damage, because it is ranked 7th amongst all Star Wars shows, putting it behind Book of Boba Fett, Bad Batch, Kenobi, Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and Andor. Some of those I understand, but
I do not understand
Obi-Wan.
Pound for pound between season 1 of Ahsoka versus season 1 of this.
I don't understand the Bad Batch and Book of Boba Fett being ahead of this.
I don't
I
either.
do understand the Bad Batch.
I mean, Bad Batch because it had more seasons, but the fact that we only had 1 season of Book of Boba Fett.
But when we looked at the numbers, there are a lot of filler episodes.
We have stated on this show, the more episodes you have, the more content you have, the greater the risk you run of getting that lower score.
Yeah. But I don't doubt that Rebels average score is going to shoot up after season 2.
It's weird to use it or look at it in respect to the other shows. Looking at it by itself, that 68%, I kind of see that as a 6.8 on IMDb, which is a good number. Like it's like this is a worth your time type of number.
Yeah, if you think of it as a D.
Yeah, I mean,
we're not going back to school. We're not going back to school.
I'm just saying, the reality is this. We know because we've watched it. It sounds crazy to say, oh, it's 68%.
Yeah.
But that we had never seen it before, I assume we'd all say 68%. You walked away feeling like there were some really fun moments.
Yeah.
The word I would use is it has potential. It was kind of a slow start, and you liked a lot of things. You didn't love a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's stuff that I'm intrigued. I want to see the second season. I don't walk away from it hating it.
Yeah. It's a show that you have to acknowledge, oh, this is good, and it's paying homage to all the stuff. And I think you're stretching if you hate anything about the show.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, we fall into the camp of liking it more than we hate it. But the reality is with 68% as well. If we put it at 100%, we're saying everyone needs to watch this. This Star Wars show is not for everyone, right? This is for you gotta really like the films. If you're talking to an adult, who says I just watch the films. What's next? Well, did you love it? No.
Yeah.
Not Rebels, right? I mean, the reality is, unless someone tells me, like, oh, I really love the hero's journey and some sort of spiritual element and this and that, it's like, well, and they love animation regardless. I'm like, okay, maybe Rebels. But for most people, the animation alone, like, my wife's just not going to watch this just because of the animation.
Ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not for everyone. But the story does grow. If you watch it, I'm confident that the overall story here,
It's gonna jump.
it's gonna be up there. I mean, I really do believe, without the numbers being done yet, that it is my favorite Star Wars TV show.
Really?
Even over Andor?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I really do. I just know that. I know my numbers are gonna agree with that too when it's all said and done. That's heart bias. We'll see what our numbers actually do say when we put our brain to it. But outside of that, that is season 1 of Rebels.
Whoa.
We're gonna
That-
check back in 4 weeks.
Isn't that
Ish.
crazy?
Yeah.
All bulked
All of
up.
it. We did it
like,
all.
This was like the Costco of Star Wars. You just
Oh my
got the
gosh.
bulk of
I
everything.
love Costco, so
Yeah.
this is great.
The new format's great. Instead of episode by episode where you're like, we don't really have a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah. We can sort of hit those high points and the
Sure.
low
Very
points. And,
comprehensive.
yeah.
Mhm.
Was there anything that we forgot to talk about?
I'm sure we'll think
I'll
of
say
it
that
after too.
while I was watching and knowing that Zeb comes back to real life, since they made Ezra's eyes in real life as blue as they could, that means that Zeb's eyes needs to be like made out of literal tennis balls.
Yeah.
Because we got to be consistent here.
Yeah.
His
Ez-
eyes are literally glowing yellow green. And I hate Ezra's eyes in
Yeah,
real life.
Ezra is more high on the spice of Dune than
Yeah,
Paul
no
Atreides.
kidding, yeah.
I'll tell you that.
I
And he's
also
no
think-
Messiah.
I also think there was a missed opportunity to cast Andy Serkis with no CGI as Zeb.
Ooh. I mean, I'm all for Andy Serkis. Like, as much as like we can just rewrite him into Star Wars, do it. But since like they already, I mean, he was Snoke and now he was Kino Loy, and like, I don't know who they did for Zeb, but it would be cool to.
The voice actor is, I don't know if he's also portraying him or if he's an entirely CGI character, but I don't know. Andy Serkis has that kind of like face though, that kind of works for someone like
Yeah.
Zeb.
And just,
He could
that
do it.
gravel.
Yeah,
That
and he was
brash.
like, really expressive
Yeah.
and raw.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if it's the same voice actor, it'll be fine.
I think one thing before I forget, the technical aspects of the show, I think because of the animation style and because of this medium, it was really hard to get that technical aspects higher for me. I don't know if I was just thinking about it the wrong way,
The thing that brought it down significantly for me.
but I will
Agreed.
say where it stood out was like you were saying, the final episodes, like your favorite ones, and it hits hard and finishes strong. But when they're from the comms tower doing the outgoing message,
Mhm.
and then the missiles are going to
Mm.
take it out, that I thought was the most cinematic of
Mm.
season 1, and that's where I was like, oh, this is where this gets a higher rank. And it was just, I don't know, it hit hard and
Yeah.
it was like emotional, but like, holy crap, this is
Yeah.
dark. And it was like a Rogue One type thing.
Yeah,
It was cool.
Yeah, totally. Well, overall,
we loved it.
We loved it.
Even though the score like doesn't
Yeah,
say we
it's a
loved
fun
it,
time.
but we all really
gotta
loved
be
it.
fair with our critical.
When it
numbers.
comes to Clone Wars and Acolyte and Rebels, I think it's easy to say that Rebels is
Yeah.
you're gonna have a fun ride. That's the thing. Critically speaking, it's not like the cream of the crop out the gate, but you had
it
a fun
will
time.
get there.
Yeah.
You had a fun time regardless.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like
It is
It's
a
not
sub
too
above.
it's not too kid focused, not like silly,
Yeah.
but there's like those silly moments in there.
yeah.
But there's also like death and identity crisis and abandonment and like heavy things.
Yeah.
it's
I
going
love
to
it.
be a
And
lot
beheadings. My goodness.
Yeah.
People lose their heads.
Yeah,
all the beheadings. Well, that's it, folks.
that is it
Yeah.
for this new format of Duel of the Ranks.
But
Mhm.
Duel of the Ranks is not done. We are going to keep going. Christian is back. Amanda, I mean, Christian took a long hiatus.
I did.
He thought you were out of the game, and right when you thought you were really done, yeah, right there again.
Thank you for having me back. I'm honored.
Yep, Amanda's back. I'm back. Brian is still here, crushing it. And there's Blop. Is that?
Yeah, there he
Blop
is.
Made his appearance. Blop
His
is back
debut.
as
The designation is B10P.
Yeah,
Brian programmed
Nice.
me with his voice box, but I'm just here
Nice.
to tell everyone to watch Star Wars Rebels, or I'll shoot you in the face.
Heck yeah, listen to Blob.
Listen to Blup. Listen for he's. I guess that's what we're doing now. We're threatening our listeners. So
Do it.
you just need to do it. Otherwise, yeah, Brian's he's gonna sick Blup on you. So that's it. Go watch season 2 so you can follow along with us about a month from now as we do our breakdown of the Bad Batch season 2.
What?
Gosh. That's it.
Rewind.
That's it. I'm not even
Rewind.
rewinding. That's it for this episode of Duel of the Rings. We're gonna talk about something in a month. and
We'll see you
y'all again
then.
real soon.